You're not single because you lack the ability to attract women, because you need to focus on your texting game, because you need to get into better shape, or you need to optimize your dating profile, or any of the number of reasons that dating coaches, pickup artists, and social media is telling you that you're single. The real reason you're single is much more subtle and much more sneaky, but much more simple. And the reason I know this and have uncovered it is because for the last 6 years, I have been coaching men specifically on their dating and relationships. And I have seen this pattern emerge with men that are high achieving, driven, good looking guys, successful guys who are in shape, go to the gym multiple times a week, have a financial stability and sense of security, and still are not able to attract the kinds of women that they want to attract, right? So why is this happening? It got me curious, especially early on, because I was even like, wow, surprised. I'm like, how are these guys still single, right? And the reason is this: you don't fundamentally feel safe in the right relationship. Now, I know that may sound just overly simplistic, but it's much easier said than actually done, in the sense of just feeling safe. Okay, just feel safe in the relationship, right? How do you actually do that? All of this stems from a lack of trust with yourself. And oftentimes with the guys that I work with, it's usually for some pretty justified reasons, right? You may have been in a relationship where you've lost yourself in the past, where you've felt manipulated, criticized, guilt-tripped, coerced, and where you've sacrificed yourself and trying desperately to make the relationship work, and yet it still wasn't actually fulfilling, right? And you couldn't make your partner happy. So if you have a past like that, then it makes sense, right? It makes sense why a part of you at least, would fear entering a relationship that is similar. Now, you may even say, oh yeah, Danny, that's happened in the past, but I know that that's not going to happen again, right? Well, maybe your conscious mind knows that, but does your unconscious know that? Because as we already know, the unconscious mind is the more powerful thing. It's the part that is actually driving so much of your behavior and so much of your results. The conscious mind is the tiny little piece of the iceberg that we see above water, right? And so the real key here to being able to attract a partner that you really want is to stop focusing on all the external surface level things that everyone is freaking out about, and go inwards and focus on creating more alignment and congruency between what you say you want, what you say you're calling forth, and what your nervous system and your unconscious is actually ready for, and actually feels safe to receive, and actually trusts you to handle, because that is the bottleneck. All right. And the good news about this is that it's much simpler. You don't have to just spend your time trying to learn all of this stuff, this theory, these techniques, and all of this. It's exhausting. I did it for like over 10 years, right? I was stuck in the pickup world and learning all this stuff and creating and contriving a persona. And it's exhausting, and it doesn't even yield the actual results that you're looking for. So once you see this, and once you actually feel it for yourself, don't just take my word for it, then it becomes so much simpler, right? Because then you've identified the thing that actually is holding you back, and not the pseudo red herrings or whatever that are taking you away from the main thing. So let's do a quick 1 minute experiment here so that you can prove it to yourself if this is true for you or not. All right. So that you don't just take my word for it. So unless you're driving or something, close your eyes, take a breath in, exhale it out, and then just pay attention to your body. In particular, pay attention to the sensations and even more specific, pay attention to the level of tension in your body. Now, in a moment, when I say what I'm about to say, all I want you to do is let it land and feel whether the tension in your body increases or decreases, right? Do you feel more constriction or do you feel more expansion? Do you feel more tight or do you feel more relaxed? All right, that's the only thing I want you to pay attention to. Okay, here we go. Take a breath. Exhale it out. And now imagine that tomorrow, with 100% certainty, you will attract the woman that you have been desiring all your life. She will be beautiful, gorgeous, stunning, have the exact personality and the value set and the emotional availability that you have been desiring. And she's right there, right in front of you, ready, choosing you, loving you, and respecting you, and ready to commit. What happens in your body? Just notice the tension. Does it subside or does it increase? All right, you can slowly open your eyes now. So if you felt more tension in your body when you thought of that, there's a reason that that is happening. And that reason is stemming from what I'm saying, that a part of you doesn't fully trust you. And because of that, because it doesn't feel fully safe in that relationship, it's bracing, right? And if you felt any level of constriction or tightening or just like whoa, that seems like a lot, right? That's a sign your nervous system is telling you, you have all the proof in your body, right? That a part of you is not actually ready to receive that which you are saying you want, that which you are calling forth, right? That's a fundamental misalignment between your conscious mind and your unconscious mind, right? So, how do we actually align those two things so that you can actually get the partner that you say you want, right? Well, it all starts with building more trust with yourself. And how do you actually build more trust with yourself? Well, it's the same way you build trust with anybody else, right? One little micro action of proof at a time, right? With patience, with ease, incremental moments, micro moments of trust that are built. That's the same way you do it with yourself, all right? And so the way that looks practically in your life is to do like an assessment. And you can do this in the context of your job or your business, right? And your coworkers. You can do this in the context of your friends. You can do this in the context of your family. But just choose an area or just all of it and look at the moments where you're doing one of two things, all right? Either where you're not setting boundaries, you're abandoning yourself, you're betraying yourself, you're not speaking your truth. This could be as big as hanging out with somebody that you just don't like and doesn't add value and drains you. Or it could be as small as just saying yes to somebody, yes to going out to eat at a restaurant that you didn't actually want to go out to eat, right? Where are you saying yes when you really want to be saying no? So that's one thing, is like you're abandoning yourself, not setting enough boundaries. The other thing, though, is that you're setting too big of boundaries. This is what I like to call compensatory boundaries, because they're compensating for a lack of trust. And so the way that this looks like, for example, let's say your friend invites you to a party and the day arrives and you're tired, you worked all day, you have work the next morning, you don't particularly feel like going out, you don't feel like socializing, you're kind of nervous actually because you have to make small talk and you open yourself up to judgment and you don't know who's going to be there, if it's going to be fun, there might be alcohol and you may not want to drink because you don't want to get hungover, yada, yada, yada. And so what you do is you just say, hey man, I'm not going to go to the party, right? Boom, done, solved. Technically, that's a boundary. However, if that boundary was set there because a part of you doesn't actually trust yourself to go to the party and leave if you're not having a good time, it doesn't trust yourself to go to the party and not drink despite the fact that everyone else might be, and just being okay with being the odd one out, doesn't trust you to go to the party and leave at the time that you said you're going to leave, right? If it doesn't trust you to do these things, then the compensatory boundary is just to not go, right? So the alternative to setting a huge, big compensatory boundary or no boundary at all is to set an appropriate boundary. And an appropriate boundary is a boundary that is set at the appropriate scale, not too big, not too little, at the appropriate time, right? In real time, as there's actually a threat, as there's actually something that is crossing your boundaries, then you set and maintain it, right? Not beforehand because you're assuming or anticipating something bad that's going to happen, and then not at all, right? When you can learn to do more of the appropriate boundaries and you start to see yourself actually do that in real time in your life, those create little micro moments of trust. They're like a little marble of trust that you place in your jar, right? And the more of those marbles that you place, the more you develop a sense of self-assuredness that you can handle whatever comes your way, whatever person comes your way. And that is what creates the actual sense of inner security to then be able to show up in dating, in a relationship, and even the right relationship, and still protect and maintain your sense of self, your sense of identity, your boundaries, your needs, to protect your hobbies, your systems, your routines, all of those things, right? Now, will they change? They're likely going to change as you intertwine your life with somebody else, but you don't have to compromise or sacrifice yourself in a way that feels unfulfilling, right? Like that is not something you have to put up with to have a healthy relationship. And if a part of you believes that, consciously or unconsciously, then of course you would push away relationships. Of course you would choose to settle for women that feel safe because they don't challenge you, they don't demand too much of you, and you kind of, you're not fully invested, you don't open yourself up to being hurt. Or of course you would remain single and chalk it up to, I'm just working on myself, or I don't have the time because I'm too busy with work. Right? All of those things, though, are subtle ways of avoiding attracting the partner that you really want, because a part of you knows that at that moment, right, if you don't have the trust to set appropriate boundaries, you will lose yourself. Right? Whether she's coercing you, manipulating you, criticizing you, or guilt tripping you, or even if she's the absolute most healthy person on the planet, but you yourself are still allowing yourself somehow, like without her even knowing, you're sacrificing yourself, you're doing things more, you're overextending yourself, right? In either case, a part of you knows that you will lose yourself. So of course, why would you want a relationship, right? I hope this is making sense. And I hope that you see that once this piece is addressed, and once there's alignment between what you're saying you want and what your nervous system is actually primed and ready to receive, that's when things shift, right? That's when the right partners start to emerge. That's when you stop to unconsciously and subtly push them away. And that's when you trust yourself to be ready to enter that relationship and still protect your sense of self. All right. That's all I have for now. I'll catch you in the next one. Take care.